Hey everybody. So the topic I wanted to talk about today has been recent news, big news. You've probably heard about Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX and what this kind of means for the crypto industry at large. I think until recently, cryptocurrency is not something that I've particularly been interested in. It's always seemed like something that's not super accessible really to most people, so it's not something that I've really been paying much attention to until lately, but all the news lately has kind of gotten me interested in what's going on over here and how does this affect the rest of us and how does this affect the industry at large. So topics I want to cover is what is cryptocurrency or cryptocurrency for dummies, the rise of Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX, and then what happened at FTX, how did it all go wrong, and where does the industry go from here? So a little background for people like me until recently, what is cryptocurrency? Cryptocurrency is like a decentralized form of digital currency. Decentralized meaning that there's no centralized government or authority which is managing and maintaining the value of cryptocurrency. So instead, that value is managed and maintained, it's distributed on a blockchain. So the transactions are recorded and maintained in code on blocks, which are all chained together and distributed across a network of computers. And each ledger holder has their own copy of the blockchain. And with each transaction that comes in, every single copy of the blockchain is updated with the new transactions. So all the records maintained are identical and accurate and up to date. This makes fraud quite difficult because it's a distributed system. Majority of the ledger holders have to be identical and in agreement for transactions to be valid and verified. So a fraudster would have to, hack over half of the ledger holders to update with their fraudulent version. So a bit of background, the first cryptocurrency and probably the one most synonymous with cryptocurrency is Bitcoin, launched in 2009. A white paper published a year earlier introduced the concept of the blockchain as a digital ledger distributed across a network of computer systems. But it wasn't until 2010 that Bitcoin was traded for the first time, previously only been mined. Quite infamously, the first Bitcoin transaction was a trade of 10,000 Bitcoins for a couple of pizzas delivered from Papa John's. I think today those pizzas would have been worth, I don't know, hundreds of millions of dollars, I think.
Wow, yeah.
And rival cryptocurrencies began to emerge in the early 2010s. Currencies like Ethereum come to mind. But by 2017, nearly 10 years later, the value of Bitcoin had reached $10,000. And I think today it's only going up. It fluctuates widely, of course. So then where does FTX come into this? Back in 2019, Sam Bankman-Fried founded FTX as a cryptocurrency exchange. The rise was pretty quick. In 2020, FTX acquired Blockfolio, another big name in crypto, expanding its user base greatly. And FTX went on to acquire various failed crypto platforms, including BlockFi and Voyager. It's only expanding and sort of the savior of failing crypto platforms. And at its peak, Sam Bankman-Fried had an estimated net worth of $26.5 billion. So, and I think the part of this whole story, which is kind of most interesting to me, is more than the actual crypto side of it, but more the persona surrounding Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX. He was sort of this, I don't know, elusive figure to the public, and he had this very relatable air about him. He had this kind of casual appearance. I read a lot of like earlier profiles of him describe him as something of like a grown-up college student. They talk about him being despite being a multi-billionaire, being this, you know, relatable guy crashing on couch with his friends, driving a Toyota Corolla, and just not really caring about his riches. He was stated as saying, you know, he doesn't want to buy things. He doesn't need a yacht. He just wants enough money to live comfortably. And he had this sort of, you know, Robin Hood-esque persona. Previously to founding FTX, he worked at the Center of Effective Altruism, which was this organization promoting effective altruism, that is, using science to figure out the best way to do the most good. And according to Bankman Freed, that philosophy inspired him to start FTX. The idea being that what's a quick way to make a lot of money to do the most good for the most people? He stated that his plan was to sort of, he would keep 1% of his worth, just enough to live comfortably, and the rest would be donated or go towards altruistic causes. And he boasted that, unlike other names in the crypto market, FTX was running an honest market. And yeah, the persona and reputation around Sam Bankman-Fried to me kind of calls to mind Elizabeth Holmes, the also recently disgraced founder of Theranos, who also had kind of a, maybe not a similar personality, but had a similar air of this millionaire who's just trying to do good for people. And then the fraud was exposed later on. And so the fall of FTX, back at the end of 2022, the chief executive of Binance, which is one of the largest crypto exchanges in the world, sold his stake in FTX and raised concerns about the financial stability of FTX, which led to traders withdrawing from FTX en masse. Binance initially offered a loan to save FTX, but pulled out of the deal. And in November 2022, reports began surfacing that billions of dollars of customer funds were missing. And then by the end of November 2022, FTX had filed for bankruptcy. So early reports were like a little bit confusing. Sam Bankman-Fried initially claimed that FTX's bankruptcy was due to poor accounting and a market crash, and claimed no criminal wrongdoing. There are messages that have been released between Bankman-Fried and investors where, you know, he's being asked about where the missing funds are, and all he responds with are just some question marks. It seems he's either didn't know or is greatly obfuscating where all these missing funds have ended up. And eventually Bankman-Fried was arrested on federal charges of defrauding customers and investors. And now the US Justice Department and the SEC began investigating whether FTX was using customer funds to fund Alameda Research, which is a crypto trading platform started by Bankman-Fried himself. So it appears that Bankman-Fried was using customer funds to fund his own interests, his own side projects outside of FTX. And so with all that, with one of the biggest names in cryptocurrency having this sort of fall from grace, where do we go from here? I think a lot of people have said that the downfall of FTX, it's sort of become a referendum on the crypto industry at large. Not sure what your news algorithms are showing you, but for me, it seems everything related to cryptocurrency is just sort of synonymous with fraud and scandal. At least that's what I'm seeing. And the crypto industry right now, the names that are still in good name, are distancing themselves from FTX and Bankman Freed, but critics maintain that the failings of FTX are emblematic of the industry at large, as opposed to just a bad apple in the bunch. Other crypto giants have been embroiled in conflict, in controversy as well. Two big names come to mind: Coinbase and Binance were both sued by the SEC recently. SEC stating that the crypto tokens are securities which should fall under the regulation of the agency, and they were previously not being regulated by the SEC. Another big name, founder of Celsius, which is a now bankrupt cryptocurrency firm, was arrested recently on fraud charges as well. And the public perception is sort of increasingly associating crypto with fraud. And the question I have is, is there coming back from this? I don't know if anybody has any thoughts, because maybe your news algorithms are different from mine and paint a different picture of what's going on, but do we think that this is a big turning point in crypto?
Yeah, I don't think that, like I've been researching enough on that, but the Celsius founder, what was the fraud charges that were laid on him? That was again leakage of funds, is it? Funds disappearing, or?
I think it was the same thing.
Wow.
Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but a similar improper use of customer funds and lying to investors about the business plans.
And Binance and Coinbase as well, they are sued by SEC.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it paints a dark picture for sure. And I'm just curious, where did the funds go? FTX, like the person gets valued at 26.5 billion. I'm sure they had a lot more funds than that. So did they just vanish without a trace?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it will all come out in the wash, but there's also claims that he was gambling with the cryptocurrency, gambling with customer funds, funneling funds into his other companies like Alameda Research.
Yeah. So when we were, like trying to do something with blockchain, I know that it maintains a ledger, and that is a distributed ledger that we knew that it does. Like so. After that, for FTX and others, probably on this distributed ledger, whenever there are transactions which are happening, everybody had their wallet as well, on which probably they were storing all the funds and all their crypto coins and whatnot. And that is all the wallets that FTX controlled, and they are the ones which were pawned on. But blockchain by itself might still be good in the sense that like it is a distributed ledger. That is what it is supposed to be. So it'll record all the transactions. Right. So it is just a journal. But then ultimately, once the funds they get routed and then they end up in a wallet, I think that is where the problem is. So I don't think blockchain as such as a technology gets any harm. But yes, like whatever people were trying to do with crypto, that is a big
right
challenge.
The issues not so much with the technology. The technology may well be sound, but the perception affects the way people use it. I mean, like with what happened with FTX, as soon as perception changes, people en masse withdraw, value plummets.
And that's the problem with vaporware, effectively, if you like, isn't it? It is not backed by anything when things go wrong, when you have the regulation and stuff. So, I mean, there's even issues just in normal investment with normal money, and there are challenges there with banks and stuff that go bankrupt because of misuse of funds and or not following regulation, which we've experienced recently as well. So then you've got something that does the same thing, but it's got no tangible foundation to hold it up.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I
Yeah.
sort of think the trajectory, we have something that's unregulated, and then let's say governments move to put more regulations on crypto, regulate it more and more until it's essentially regulated the same way as our normal currency, and we wind up with something that's very far from what the original intent was.
Mm.
I think for banks failure, like we have the Silicon Valley Bank, right? So for them to fail, they were lending out money to companies from where they did not get anything back. So probably they lost their investment. Like at least they. In this case, this was an exchange, right? So ultimately, if it is an exchange, they are not promising people that okay, like you deposit $100, I'm going to give you 105 back. So if that wasn't the case, it is just that we are putting money in the bank and then somebody like just ran away with all the money. But the funny part is that what happened with that money, and that's like billions of dollars that we're talking about probably.
Well, wasn't there another issue? There was a Canadian exchange, or I don't know, it was a crypto exchange called Quadriga, and that was the same thing. And all the transactions died on the CEO's laptop, and it went missing.
Oh yeah, that's true as well. Yeah. No, that's true as well. Yeah. And then they could not find anything. Like there was no track of nothing because no. So the laptop did not die. The person himself, I think he was no more, and then
Yes.
he had key to the transaction. So now nobody knows. Like
It's just gone.
But those failures have nothing to do with the crypto itself, right? I mean, crypto is just a currency that is being traded. So if somebody starts a company trading dollars and they go bankrupt, that doesn't mean there is something wrong with the dollar. Just
Right.
same
But I guess
with the Bitcoin.
I guess the currency is only as valuable as people's perception of it.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
their trust in it. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the thing.
So it's absolutely that, because it's like, say, let's take NFTs these days. People decide that an NFT is valuable because it's a kind of a supply and demand thing. Yeah, there's something tangible there, but well, not for the name. But again, it's just how valuable people think something is what you're going to pay for it until that's no longer the case. And that's why we can't really work that way with our normal monetary system, because people are just too unpredictable. I would say that's why the regulation's in place. You plan for, you don't put regulation in place for success, you put it in place for failure.
I think for generations, gold was considered as the standard, and US delinked from gold. Then dollar became the standard. So essentially, if you think of it, dollar is very similar to crypto. Just because other countries and people trust, dollar has become, de facto standard. Instead of gold, it is dollar now. I think I feel there is nothing wrong with crypto. And just like Amelia said, it is essentially comes down to trusting the crypto, the Bitcoin. But if that happens, there are other wider implications, right? Like US is viewed as a large country with big economy, with open monetary policy and predictable behavior. But that's why everybody trusts dollar. And if people start trusting crypto, that can, that's actually scary if you think of it, right? All those fluctuations. So there is nothing standard. There is nothing that is linking to a hard asset. Yeah, I guess it comes down to like trust, and I don't think crypto is there yet.
Yeah, and with the
Yeah.
with the number of different kind of coins as well. But I think a year back when I was looking, there were like 2,000 plus different kind of coins which are available. Yeah, like the ones that we know are Bitcoin and Ethereum. Then there is a doggy coin and this and that. And then there's just everything under the sun. So like, where do you put your money, and do you even put your money at all? I don't know if any of us has invested in crypto. I haven't. I was always scared of it somehow.
I think most reasonable people have been foolish not to invest.
We're all fools for not investing back in 2010.
Well, that's the thing.
They
It's
were-
kind of like when you were
The cost of a couple pizzas.
exactly buying pizzas. That's a whole
I
different
almost
story.
I almost was to buy some Ethereums back in 2018 when we were doing project with 3-tier logic in Aldus, and I was doing a POC to build a digital wallet for them.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I forgot. I forgot, right? But yeah, I had almost everything set up, and that time I think Bitcoin was very high thing.
Yeah. No, that is true, and probably that was the time when we were evaluating this technology as well, just trying to see. Frankly, I still don't know what is a good use case for blockchain apart from crypto. So even at that time, it was, let's evaluate blockchain. Yeah, like the concepts are great. Let us see how we can actually introduce that for business. I know that supply chains and others, and maybe some financial transactions, that is something that they are still trying to do on that. I don't know how much of that is actually successful. Probably it is. Like I've lost.
Because I heard that Indian government is linking the educational qualification validation into the blockchain.
That is, see, all the validation part is still something that can be done. So when you want to validate land records, when you want to validate, like say, for example, educational qualification, I think that is a good way of using blockchain. But apart from validation, where else would you use that? That is something that we were trying to understand. But yeah, validations is a good part. I think that is not something which can be tampered with, so on and so forth. So yes, that is a good use case probably.
One more thing, I'd like Google Cloud certifications, right? They now share that blockchain ID with each certification.
Oh, okay. I didn't know.
Yeah, so they gave a link and you get the blockchain. So both of my certifications, right? They are all validated to this technology.
Awesome.
But how is that different from, just like Social Security exposed as an API? So why can't you verify using a centralized server? See, that
is, Ram, the only difference. So instead of making it centralized, the idea was to make it decentralized, so that there are thousands of copies available of that, so that there is not one system that can be the authority on that. And if that one system is tampered with, nobody can say that, oh yeah, Ram does not have all these qualifications because I just deleted few rows from that. So that particular system is not going to be in conjunction with all the other 1,999 systems that still have those copies, and hence this one will be disregarded. So that was the only reason. But yeah, it's just a matter of where do you need centralization and where decentralization is helpful. I think that is the only use case that I found the validation part that is interesting. But then my problem was that even for hosting that, yes, there are copies available, but even for hosting that platform on which blockchain is running, and running on your machine and my machine and so on, there is going to be some centralized company that does that. So is there a possibility of getting something tampered at that level? I don't know, but that is the only reason that I found that there are going to be multiple copies, and then there is going to be no way of tampering records unless you go back and change records on every system and the history, because every blockchain block has got a number which is linked to all the previous computations. So it is just impossible to change.
See, that's the thing, right? Like most blockchains are now private.
Yeah.
So if I'm owning my blockchain and I'm saying, you keep your certificate here, and I guarantee it is not tampered, that's like, I can't tamper.
Object. Yeah.
Totally agreed. Totally agreed. Yeah, many blockchains are now private. They are permissioned as well. So yeah, like there you go. Then how do we even validate? It's just like knowledge graph, Ram. When we were doing the knowledge graph, the idea was that the world is going to be recognizing this particular thing as this thing only. If you have a different name for it, then we'll be able to map it. But then who has one knowledge graph, right? When we were working with our client, Pfizer had a different one, and like some other company had a different one. So yeah, like where do you converge these things?
But if you think of it, see, the world is becoming more multipolar, with China rising, India rising. So I think the dollar will be challenged, which means we should buy Bitcoin
Or gold, maybe.
or gold.
Yeah. We'll go back to the gold standard.
Yeah.
I think that what's ironic for me in this whole thing is that blockchain and all of that technology really arose from the distrust of centralized governments and authority. And now you've come to a point of somebody like Sam Bankman-Fried who has completely destroyed the trust of most people who are in or looking at crypto. Ironic.
Yeah.
But it doesn't take that much. I don't know, like why it is not done. Probably it is done already. Like exchanges like Chicago Mercantile Exchange or New York Stock Exchange. They can run that market.
Yeah.
Right.
So by applying regulation to crypto is what you're saying, like the technology is still reasonable. There's no reason why it shouldn't be able to work. And I guess that's the journey that normal currency has come through itself to the point that we're at.
And I think that is probably because these exchanges are highly regulated, and probably US has a vested interest in not completely making it legal. That might challenge the dollar's dominance. I don't know.
But you are right, Ram. So our client, Singapore Exchange, they have an offshoot that is just trying to do this. So if they want to regulate not only crypto but also bonds and like other equities and other things on their platform, so that is exactly what they are trying to do in a regulated environment now, so that people have more trust on that. But you're right. That is already underway.
Okay. I don't know if Smokey has any thoughts about cryptocurrency.
Yeah, let's hear that.
Smokey coin.
Yeah.
And Smokey will be worth billions.
Oh yeah.
Then,
Look at this
and then you
face.
forget. Yeah, absolutely. And then you forget about the 2 pizzas that you're talking about, Emilia.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing that I wanted to say was in thinking about like the future of crypto, I think the other consideration we need to make is like the environmental cost. Because the mining of cryptocurrency is so energy intensive, and between 2018 and 2022, it was estimated that the energy quadrupled, and it's kind of hard to get accurate estimates. I've seen sort of a bit of a range of estimates and how much energy it's using, but recent estimates say about almost 1% of global energy usage comes from cryptocurrency. And if that's only going up, then, it's also a concern, is how much energy are we using in this mining? And then the other thing that I didn't even think about, but it seems so obvious, is like the electronic waste that's produced in the mining, because the hardware is, eventually becomes obsolete and it goes to waste. And what's estimated that Bitcoin is producing, 38,000 tons of electronic waste. This is also a cost that we need to consider with the climate crisis.
Interesting.
I think eventually, I forgot what is that new technology that is on the radar. Quantum.
Yeah.
Probably, that's where that problem might be quickly solved.
Yeah, but you got to get that to the masses.
Yeah, I think, there are already a lot of startups investing, and prediction is another 10 years, we should have at least company level quantum computers available.
So it'd be
Then maybe-
interesting to know though where, like what that includes geography wise, and then compared to where is most of the crypto mining coming from? Like where does it originate? Where is that energy usage happening most around the world compared to where the new technology is going to go?
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, so it's just there's a lot of costs to this system that we need to consider. And I think a lot of at least crypto enthusiasts have like a dream of crypto replacing traditional currency or going to sort of a cashless society.
Mhm.
Increasingly, I see, places are cashless everywhere, and we're just using, cards, or I think some people will want everything to be Bitcoin in the future, but recently there's been a lot of, even criticism just of a cashless system. Like I've really recently, where was it? It was some cities have, in the US at least, have already introduced legislation to ban cashless policies. I think very recently, like DC has enacted legislation to ban these cashless policies because at least proponents are saying that cashless is discriminating against low-income, homeless, and undocumented people for whom it's difficult or impossible to open a bank account. And a lot of people still rely on hard cash. And I think it's something that maybe we don't think about that much. At least in Toronto, we don't have any such legislation banning cashless, but I think it might be something that's cash is sort of going to come back into favor. At least it's not something, I think a lot of people are maybe taking it as a given that cash is going away. And I think increasingly, I don't know that it's such a given that cash is going away, or that it should go away, or that it would be just. But,
Yeah, I think
I don't know.
one more article that I was reading with regards to this cashless policy was also that people are entitled to privacy, and cash is the only way that they get privacy. So everything else is traced, everything else is trackable, and you need privacy, so you just cannot take away cash. So that is going to be one element of that, because I don't want, say for example, I don't want somebody to know that I'm having coffee at this place and eating at that place, and like going around. So right now, if anybody is going to dig into our transactions, they know everything about us. So cash is the only way to keep that privacy in place. Then there are other factors, like the cost of cash is much more than the cash itself. So for $1, the cost of $1 is almost like $1.40, because the way we handle it, the way we store it, the way it is like put into ATM machines, then it gets transferred here and there. So actually the cost of cash is much higher. So there is a debate on both lines. But I'm with you. I don't think that cash just goes away, and who knows, that we might be using more and more cash as we go ahead. In fact, just today in the news, there was an article that said that with all the cars getting stolen here in Toronto and everywhere, they were saying that probably now is the time to go back to cars which have got actual keys in them, so that we ignite the ignition with that, rather than all push button ones. So yeah, I don't know, maybe we are just coming a full circle on everything, and
Yeah.
who knows, we might be riding horses after that.
Yeah, and on the cash costing more than it is worth. I mean, only recently did we, like at least in Canada, we got rid of the penny. I don't know how long ago that was now, 10 years ago, 10, 15 years ago. But I think the US still uses the penny, which is worth, costs more than it's worth.
Yeah.
And change like that is pretty slow.
Have you been to the grocery store sometimes when their internet is down or their I don't know, the machines are
The
down
POS.
and they require cash?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, last year there was that like big Rogers outage in Canada. That's like a big internet provider in Canada. And like the entire Interac system went down. So most stores, you couldn't buy anything. You couldn't use a card because Rogers was down.
Yeah.
They have backups now. They have two service providers.
Yeah. That was also an afterthought by the government, but yeah, it's good. Like, so I don't know about you, but I haven't been using cash for almost like so many years now. Like even when I'm traveling, I'm not using cash. Even in India, I'm not using cash whenever I'm visiting there. So everything is electronic, but I don't know if that's the right thing per se. But I haven't touched cash for a long time.
Yeah, it's sort of. Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say I haven't been back to the UK and it's my first time back in 7 years last month, and I was amazed at how much contactless payments have thrived there. Everything is contactless now. You walk on a bus, you just tap your phone. It's amazing how quickly it caught on.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah.
Thanks to COVID.
Yeah, thanks to COVID. Yeah, that is right. True.
Yeah. I mean, I also hadn't used cash in a long time, but very recently just have found myself using cash more often. It just, you see it. It's like a tangible thing. I think part of that is like with my nephews, and they have allowance, and they really want to have like their own, like a kid's card and a kid's, bank account. But I tell them, like, if it's on a card, you don't see it. You don't know what you're spending. You don't know what you have.
Yeah.
And if it's on a card, you're gonna go to Dollarama and buy a bunch of slime or whatever it is, and you won't even know what you're spending. So I've kind of slowly going back to cash.
Yeah.
And then also, you have a credit card and debit card, and all of the policies and fees are so obfuscated. I think, to me, seem deliberately confusing.
Yeah.
With transaction limits and everything, and sometimes I don't even know what I have or how it all works, whereas the cash is very simple. You know what you have and how it works.
Yeah, just imagine if that's how we are thinking about our cards, then crypto is the next level, right? So like when we don't understand our cards well enough, and you're right, like all the policies, the booklet that they send, I don't know how many of us end up reading that. For me, it just goes into trash after keeping it for a while. That I'll read it someday. But then, like crypto is just next level. Like it's even more obfuscated. You don't even know how it is getting the job done. But yeah, it is. Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, that was a good discussion from everybody. That's pretty much all I had. If there's anybody with final thoughts.
So what is the conclusion, that crypto is doomed now, or does it
Crypto's doomed and we're going back to cash? We gotta get piggy banks like my nephews have.
Hide it under your mattress.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The world should know. You heard it first here from Emilia.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. Sounds good.
Cool.
I'm sure Inga is going to be happy. We finished in time.
Yep.
4:42.
Yeah.
That's a record.
Minutes to stay. Sure.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Emilia.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Great.
I know. Bye.